Hey everybody, and welcome back to another severe storm film or weather forecast. In this forecast, we're going to be talking about an active weather pattern across the United States. So let's get right into it. First, taking a look at the most important part of the videos, the jet stream. And you can see here we have some pretty cold air coming out of Canada that is bringing down some pretty bitter cold air from the Arctic, and that is producing some snow across portions of the Great Lakes region. With the tension of air masses there, the warmer and colder air mass there, we create a clipper system. But as we take this into the daytime hours tomorrow for our Friday, December 20th, you can see here that trough will continue to dig across the United States. Eastern side of the United States will be dealing with cooler than average temperatures, and the west will be dealing with warmer than average temperatures. But watch what happens in the west as we head in towards the weekend. Big ridge starts to develop across the west, and a big trough starts to develop in the east. Bitter cold temperatures expected for some in the east throughout the weekend, and very warm temperatures expected for the west for some this weekend. So it's definitely going to be noticeable, even if you're on the west coast, if it's warmer. But the cold, I think, in my opinion, is more noticeable, but people have their different opinions, right? But as we take this in towards Sunday, December 22nd, you can see here still some pretty cold air coming down across the eastern United States. Ridge is still soaring into the northern Canada region, and then as we head in towards the daytime hours on Christmas Eve, you can see that ridge is just, it's dominant across the United States, and it actually begins to retract the polar jet a little bit, allowing a bit more warm air to come into some of the eastern United States, and that's the beginning of that change I was talking to you about, the active weather pattern. Watch what happens as we head in towards Christmas Eve. We begin to get a trough that starts to dig pretty deep across portions of the Central Plains. You can see that as we go, draw these arrows out there with the southerly flow out ahead of it. That is likely going to create some tension in between those air masses, and therefore leading to severe weather down here in the portions likely of the Texas region as we head in towards that Christmas Eve time frame. As it looks right now, that's where that severe weather threat would be. But as we go in towards the Christmas time frame, my friends, look at this, all right? You still got that massive ridge across the United States, and at this point, this is just a cutoff low. All right, it's separated from the other part of the jet stream, but it's still going to be producing some heavy rain, maybe even still some thunderstorms as we head in towards the daytime hours on Christmas. Not really looking much in the way of severe weather anymore with that system, but here comes the next system as we head in towards Thursday, December 26th. You can see here as that jet stream starts to soar across the United States. Ridge in the east, trough starting to come back in the central and western United States. And then you can see here again the tension of air masses likely going to produce some severe weather in this region. All right, and yes, it's a bit further north than what you'd expect it to be. It does have a connection with the Gulf of Mexico, though. So I would say that it might be something more like this. We'll have to wait and see, but that definitely is looking like a pretty decent severe weather setup for especially the Midwest as we head in towards that time frame. But as we take this in towards the 27th, we get another storm system to dig in. All right, and it's relentless with these storm systems. On and off, all right? Look at this. Jet stream going right through the Ohio Valley. Warm air surging northward, cold air surging southward. Tension of air masses will create a threat for severe weather, possibly as far north as Iowa and western Illinois as we head in towards that daytime time frame on that Friday, December 27th time frame. And then as we take this in towards December 28th, this is just going to steepen more, guys. I mean, I think Saturday could be the biggest day of severe weather overall. I could be wrong, but it's definitely looking that way. All right, I mean, you got cold air punching into this with a very sharp wind shift ahead of that. That is just pure fuel, all right, for that upper low to produce a powerful cold front along this boundary. It's more so something like this, but you get what I mean. Severe weather will be very, very widespread possibly around this time frame, and it is going to be very, very much something we'll need to watch all the way as far north as Wisconsin and Michigan. I can't believe I'm saying that those areas will get severe weather in the middle of the fall and winter, but I mean, that's how it's going to go. All right, so we're going to need to keep a close eye on that. And look at this, the 29th, we still could be seeing a day or two of severe weather. All right, look at this. All right, negatively tilted trough, cold air punching in, very sharp wind shift ahead of that front is going to cause a very powerful and very sharp temperature gradient between these areas. All right, low is way up in Canada at this point, which means the cold front is extending as far south as the Gulf Coast. You are going to have a severe weather threat as far north as Canada if this verifies. All right, this is very much something I'm going to be keeping my very close eye on, and we could have significant severe weather down here on the Gulf Coast, like a tornado event, rather than a damaging wind event up here in the Great Lakes region. Severe weather is severe weather, though, so please make sure you have ways of receiving alerts. And then as we head beyond that time frame into January, it appears our jet stream will become much more active, perhaps with more storm systems coming into the next couple weeks. All right, now that we're done taking a look at the jet stream, now let's take a peek at our precipitation trends across the United States. There's that Clipper system that is going to be bringing some widespread snow across portions of Minnesota and Wisconsin for the next couple hours before beginning to traverse itself into the Great Lakes region. Some of these lakeshore areas could experience some heavier lake snow bands, especially throughout the daytime hours on Saturday. And you can see that there's that dissipates throughout the day on Sunday. Sunday looks like a fairly quiet day across the United States, but then as we head in towards Christmas Eve, that's when our next storm system begins to develop. Snow on the northern end could be heavy at times. Rain, possibly rumbles of thunder, especially down here in Oklahoma and Missouri. Further north will just be rain. You could potentially have freezing rain where that snow line is. So be sure to pay attention to that if you live in southeast Michigan on Christmas Eve. But as we head in towards the daytime hours on Christmas Eve, you can see here there's that next storm system. Possible severe weather threat, very isolated at first in portions of Texas. And then as we head into the daytime hours on Christmas itself, like I said, this low is going to be on the weakening trend, and it's not really going to be connected to anything. So I think mainly just rain could be heavy at times, maybe with some thunderstorms embedded across portions of Louisiana, as well as Arkansas with some rain, maybe some mix the farther north you get. And then as we head into the day after Christmas, we get potentially a bomb cyclone across portions of the western tier. That's going to be something to keep an eye on. I'm going to be really keeping my eye on that one. And then as we head in towards the 27th time frame, that's when we start to turn up our concerns for significant severe weather. All right, it's not on here yet, but I think we could have some isolated to scatter maybe severe weather starting across portions of Tennessee back into the Gulf Coast region by the time we hit this time frame. So something to be aware of, but not totally freak out about just yet. But watch what happens as we head in towards the 28th, all right? Like I said, this could be our worst day of severe weather yet across portions of the Midwest, back up into portions of the Great Lakes. We could even have some more areas down here on the Gulf Coast, maybe even two separate areas, something I'm going to be keeping my eye on as well. Again, the more supercellular mode will be down confined to the Gulf Coast, and the squall line will probably be more confined to the north, like I said at the beginning of the video, severe weather is severe weather, so be sure you're aware of that. And then as we head in towards Sunday the 29th, you can see here, severe weather, possibly significant severe weather, still going on across this region. I wouldn't circle that far east. Probably something like this, significant severe weather still going on. Heavy rain elsewhere, could have some flooding down there in the portions of the Carolinas throughout the day on Sunday, December 28th. And then as we head in towards Monday, December 30th, you can see here we perhaps have another low pressure system, perhaps with another day of severe weather across portions of Virginia, as well as North Carolina. But look at this, all right? We start to get some changes. Low developing in the panhandle of Oklahoma, snow starting on the northern end of that. Watch what this does as we head in towards New Year's Eve, all right? Snow starts to break out on the western and northern end of the system, and I think we could be talking about some healthy snow totals if this were to break out as planned or pan out. So something to definitely keep an eye on. And then as we head into January, things become super uncertain, but this model likes to show a much snowier pattern for much more places in the United States. So that will be something to look forward to, and of course we'll continue to keep you posted. Alright everybody, now that we're done taking a look at our precipitation trends, the last thing we're going to take a look at is our temperature trends across the United States. And you can see here, tell very clearly where that cold air is and where that warm air is. You can see that cold air coming out from the north and dropping down into the east, and that warm air beginning to build across the west. Again, it's going to really feel like summer in places, especially the southwest. We could have temperatures soaring into the 90s, perhaps in the SoCal region, maybe even as far north as Arizona. So something to keep an eye on there, but not too terribly impressed that we're going to have like a summer-like heat wave or anything. But like I said, it will definitely feel like one for this time of year. And as you can see as I'm drawing this here, tomorrow below average temperatures for much of the east as a blast of cold air starts to make its way in. And at the same time, you can see reinforcing shot that Clipper system brings across portions of the Great Lakes region. At the same time, we see this big wall of heat building across the central and western United States. Not often I say central and western, I usually say central and eastern. Anyway, you can see here the cold air is still holding on across the eastern United States going in towards the 22nd. And then as we head in towards Christmas Eve, that's when the changes start to be known. Alright, this is when that wall of warm air will start to make its way east. And it's going to pretty much push all the cold air out of here as we head in towards that time frame. And especially as we head in towards Christmas Eve, you can see here that warm air is really starting to take over across much of the United States. You can see there as much as 20 degrees above average down here in portions of the south central United States. So definitely something to keep an eye on there. And then as we head in towards Christmas Day, not much cold across the United States, my friends. I really don't think many areas are going to have much chances of seeing a white Christmas. However, we could potentially, across portions of maybe the snowbelt regions of New York and maybe even northwestern Pennsylvania, that could be some areas to watch for a white Christmas. But elsewhere, it's not going to happen with this heat. All right, so keep dreaming, as they like to say, if you're dreaming of a white Christmas this year, because it's unfortunately not going to happen. But as we take this into the day, after Christmas, you can see here lots of warm air overtaking the United States. We have some cold air damming occurring across the eastern United States, where we have high pressure system that's so stubborn cold air continues to sit and stay as that flow continues to stay strong. But that warm air will eventually win out there too. It's gone by the time we head in towards that next day around Friday the 27th. Look at this, as much as 25 degrees above average across Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, even Ohio getting into that very above average degree territory. Regardless, it is really warm across the United States by the time we hit December 27th. And it's this thing right here that's going to knock things back. All right, there's that wall I was talking to you about. That cold air is going to start trying to push into it. But watch what happens with this as we head in towards Saturday the 28th. Now you're talking about upwards of 30 degrees above average in some areas. That is just insane for this time of year, seeing those colors on there. But as we head in towards the 29th time frame, that's when that cold front's going to start making its way eastward. All right, we're still going to have above average temperatures, but man, we're still going to have severe weather because moisture is going to be like flung northward. And I can't stress this enough, this will be the setup we see. All right, so we're going to need to keep a close eye on that. Regardless, upwards of 25 to 30 degrees above average in the Midwest region and the Great Lakes. That is just insane. And then as we head in towards the 30th, this is when the stronger punch of cold air comes through. This is when we could be talking about severe weather in the Ohio Valley region, East Coast and whatnot. And then things start to cool down as we head in towards January. This model likes to show an Arctic blast full on across the United States around January 4th. This will not happen this way, but the trend is that we'll probably start to see more Arctic blasts as we head in towards January than we have lately. All right, and that means snowstorms start for the northern ends of these storm systems. Instead of storm systems going north into the Great Lakes like they have been, they're going to start taking this trajectory. All right, which means these areas would be favored for the ice and the heavy snow, while these areas would be favored for the rain. All right, so definitely an interesting pattern that is going in towards January for sure. And the last thing we'll take a look at is pretty much what is going on in the pole. All right, the North Pole. All right, so you can see as we head in towards the day after Christmas, you can see there's that high pressure I was talking to you about that's causing that cold air damming, we call it, that is continuing to sit there with that north to northeasterly flow on the eastern end of that high pressure. But like I said, this plays a bigger role than causing warm air across the continental United States and cold air north. All right, so, I mean, look at what happens here. All right, we're looking all the way into the Greenland area, even further than that. All right, like this is the North Pole. All right, so you can see that right there. Well, and the continental United States included there, but you get what I'm saying here. All right, look at this area of high pressure. It's very important because these tend to push cold air out of Canada that kind of displaces the jet stream, if you will. All right, look at what happens as we head in towards the New Year's Eve time frame. High pressure is roaring across Greenland. All right, and yes, it is roaring across Greenland. All right, that is a big signal and telling me that cold air masses are going to soon be very noticeable across the United States. Look at the high pressure all over Canada too. Flow around a high pressure system is clockwise. All right, so you have it going up here and then down here. Up here, then down here. All right, and it just, look at this. It drives it down on the eastern end of that. All right, that's why we in the United States need to be watching for those cold air shots as we head in towards that time frame. I forgot what I was going to say there. I'm sorry, guys. But as we go in towards, like, let's say January 4th, all right, that's when that big storm system develops. And you can see here, this model likes to put an even stronger piece of high pressure over the northern Canada region. This is significant, guys, all right? It might not look significant, it is, all right? And you can see here, again, flow around high pressure system is clockwise, All right, you can see here the cold air has already escaped. And you can see here flow around a low pressure system is counterclockwise. And that is just going to reinforce that shot on the western end. So we need to watch this one especially, as well as this one. All right, I think mid-January gets very cold around the United States. And that's basically all I have for you guys today. So make sure you like and subscribe if you're not already. We'll continue to keep a close watch on that pattern for you guys.